They looked like nerds. Quiet, polite, always front row. Easy to ignore, easy to mock. But one shove was all it took. 6 seconds later, 2 football players were on the ground, and the school cafeteria fell silent. Ava and Imani James weren't just smart. They were trained, focused, lethal when pushed, and from that day on, no one underestimated them again. First bell hit at 7:45 like it always did. Loud, sharp, unapologetic. Kids shuffled in with backpacks half open, phones in one hand, iced coffee in the other, laughing about nothing and everything, moving like they owned the place. No one noticed the twins at first. The front doors opened slow. No drama. No music. Just 2 girls walking side by side, moving in quiet, perfect sync. They didn't speak. They didn't look around. They just walked like they'd done this 100 times before. And they had. Ava and Imani James. 17. Identical twins, but not in that attention-grabbing way, in that quiet, detailed blend, mirrored kind of way that made people pause and double-check. Both had deep brown skin, smooth and unbothered. Their dark brown hair was braided tight into low buns that sat neatly at the base of their skulls. No edges left out, not a hair out of place. Wire-rimmed glasses, clear frames, a bit oversized. They wore matching navy cardigans buttoned all the way up, crisp white collars peeking out underneath. Charcoal gray skirts to the knee, black tights, black low-top sneakers. Not flashy, not trendy, just correct. Like their whole look was proofread twice before they walked out the door. Each carried a perfectly organized backpack with their initials embroidered on the straps. Inside, color-coded binders, mechanical pencils, sticky notes, and backup batteries. No clutter, no chaos, just preparation. And when they walked, it wasn't stiff. It was smooth. Heads high, backs straight, footsteps light. No headphones. No gum, no distractions. They walked like their dad had trained them to enter a room with purpose. Because he had. First class of the day, AP US History, room 215. The second they walked in, the vibe changed. Not dramatically, subtly. A few students glanced up, a couple of whispers. The teacher, Mrs. Stratton, straightened up like someone important had walked in. "Oh, are you the new students?" she asked. Ava spoke first. "Yes, ma'am, Ava James." Then Imani. "And Imani James, we just transferred from Capitol Hill Magnet." One sentence each. Clear, polite, no wasted words. Mrs. Stratton smiled. "Welcome. Find a seat anywhere." They picked the front row, dead center, like it was strategic. They sat down, unzipped their bags in sync, pulled out matching binders labeled U.S. History in neat block letters, and clicked their pens at the same time. Not for show, just habit. Logan Parker noticed immediately. He was lounging in the third row, legs stretched, hoodie half-zipped over his football tee, hair spiked just enough to look accidental. He nudged Reese, who sat beside him, and muttered, "Bro, what is this? Debate Team Voltron?" Reese smirked. "They look like they take notes in binary." The girls didn't even flinch. Didn't turn around. Just started copying the objective on the board like it was the only thing in the world that mattered. By lunch, the entire school had clocked them. Same walk, same lunch trays, turkey sandwich, apple slices, water bottle, nothing extra. They moved through the cafeteria like ghosts, untouched by the noise around them. Sat at the furthest table from the food line, back corner, chairs angled slightly toward each other. No phones out. No gossip, just quiet conversation no one could hear. Logan passed by with his tray, flanked by Reese and Tyrell. He slowed down just enough to watch. "I swear they chew in sync," he said under his breath. Reese leaned in. "They're like if Google Docs had a personality." Tyrell chuckled low but said nothing. His eyes lingered a little longer. Because, yeah, they looked like nerds. But something felt off. Their posture was too straight. Their eyes were too calm. They weren't just quiet. They were composed. Like they were watching the room just as much as the room was watching them. Like they were measuring people, scanning exits, keeping track of where everyone was. Nobody else noticed that. Everyone else just saw the glasses, the books, the silence, and assumed that meant soft, assumed that meant safe. That was mistake number one. By Wednesday afternoon, it wasn't just Logan and his boys calling them Team Algebra. The whole school had adopted it like a meme that wrote itself. It started off as a throwaway joke during second period math. Mr. Langley had called Ava and Imani up to the whiteboard at the same time. 2 separate equations, 2 markers, 2 silent girls. They didn't even glance at each other, but they moved in rhythm. Same pen grip, same stance, same exact half-second pause before solving. Like a dance they'd done 100 times. When they stepped back from the board, their answers were not only correct, they were identical in method, down to the placement of parentheses. Logan leaned back in his chair, feet on the desk, and said with a laugh, "Yo, Team Algebra strikes again." Reese nearly spit out his gum. The nickname stuck before the bell even rang. By third period, it was on Snap. By fourth, someone edited a side-by-side video of the twins writing equations with a voiceover that said, "Calculators with hair." Harmless, maybe. But Ava and Imani clocked it for what it was. Step 1. The first probe, the opening crack in the surface. And like always, they gave nothing away. No eye rolls, no glares, no whispered retorts. They just did what they always did, took notes, stayed front row, stayed perfect. But the jokes evolved fast. In the cafeteria line, a kid behind them muttered, "Y'all calculating the square root of this spaghetti or what?" Another day, a senior tossed a pencil on their table and said, "You dropped this, algorithms." It was always half a joke, half a dare. Ava would calmly return the pencil. Imani would lift one brow like she couldn't be bothered. Not once did they raise their voice. Not once did they play into it. But what no one noticed, what no one ever noticed, was how sharp their eyes were. How every movement in the room passed through their internal radar. Ava logged where everyone sat. Imani tracked who laughed hardest at which jokes. They weren't angry, they were collecting. Every afternoon, while the rest of the school peeled off into football practice, cheer tryouts, or TikTok scrolling in the back row of Starbucks, the twins took the 405 city bus to a beat-up strip mall on the east side. Past a laundromat, past a vape shop, tucked between a payday loan place and a pawn shop, was a gym with no sign. Just a faded sticker on the door that read, Iron Temple. Inside, the air was thick and warm, soaked with the smell of old leather, sweat, and blood that never quite got cleaned from the mats. No playlists, no mirrors, no yoga girls, just hard bodies and heavy breathing. Their coach, Hector, was a tank of a man with arms like tree trunks and a broken nose that never got reset. He didn't believe in compliments. He believed in control, in flow, in bone mechanics. "Back again?" he'd grunt. "Always," Ava would say. "Clock's running," he'd growl, pointing toward the cage. "Gloves on, wraps tight. No warm-ups, just war." Ava liked working from her back, sweeps, counters, arm drags. Imani preferred pressure, elbows, knees, dirty boxing in close range. They trained like machines. No drama, no showing off, just clean, sharp execution. Hector used to coach amateurs, even had a few go pro. He told them once, between rounds, "If you girls had 10 more pounds on you, I'd be making you fight grown men." But they weren't in it for belts. They were in it for the discipline, for the edge. Because where they came from, being smart was never enough. Looking soft was dangerous. Their dad made sure of that. 3 tours overseas, now posted in Germany. When he left, he told them 2 things. Protect each other, always, and never let the first hit be the last. So when Logan bumped Imani's desk with his foot during 4th period lit class, "Oops, didn't see you there, tiny twin." She didn't even blink. Ava, without missing a line from the crucible, adjusted her sister's chair half an inch back. When Reese smacked the back of Ava's notebook with his palm in bio, "You solving DNA or designing Skynet?" she turned the page calmly and kept writing. And still, the twins gave nothing, because every day they were building. Not just their strength, not just their technique, but the case. Every joke, every shoulder bump, every sly little nudge in the hallway. They were watching, remembering, preparing, because the thing about quiet girls is people think they're weak. And the thing about people like Logan is they always go one step too far. It happened during 4th period chemistry. The class was halfway through a balancing equations lab. Bunsen burners hissing, beakers clinking, goggles fogging up from nervous teenage breathing. Imani was at her station, focused, sleeves rolled up, adjusting the gas level under a flask with textbook precision. Ava was next to her, scribbling notations in her lab journal with the kind of surgical handwriting you only get from years of drilling discipline. Reese and Logan were supposed to be working behind them, but mostly they were tossing paper clips into a beaker like it was beer pong. "Yo," Logan said, eyeing Ava's handwriting. "How does her pen even move that fast?" Reese leaned over the lab table, tapped a pencil near Imani's elbow, and said in a voice just loud enough, "Hey, Team Algebra, you guys cooking meth or solving climate change?" Imani didn't respond, didn't even glance his way, just reached forward, turned off the gas valve, and moved on to the next part of the experiment. Reese grinned. "They got no social reaction, bro. Straight up NPC energy." And then it happened, fast, dumb, and intentional. Logan bumped into Imani's desk hard enough to rock the glassware. One of her flasks tipped sideways. Water spilled across the table and soaked her lab packet. He smirked. "Oops." The room fell half silent. Just enough noise left for everyone to pretend they hadn't noticed. Imani looked down at the wet page, slowly peeled it off the desk. Wordlessly flipped to a clean sheet. Ava didn't speak either, just calmly pulled a backup copy of the lab printout from her binder, laminated, because of course it was, and slid it in front of her sister. Logan and Reese looked at each other, confused, like they expected anger, a glare, a threat. Some kind of emotional break, they got nothing. But Tyrell across the room looked up from his burner for the first time in 10 minutes. He didn't laugh, didn't smirk. He just watched. That same afternoon in the cafeteria, the game escalated. Ava and Imani were in their usual spot, back left table, against the wall, trays perfectly arranged, eating like clockwork. Reese walked by with a fresh bottle of orange soda. Didn't say a word, just, accidentally, bumped the edge of their table with his knee. The bottle tipped. Carbonated sugar bomb exploded across Ava's tray. A few students turned. One snorted. Logan chuckled from the drink station like it was the best prank ever pulled. But Ava? She calmly lifted her sandwich, shook the droplets off the plastic wrap, and kept eating. Imani reached into her bag, pulled out a paper towel packet, sealed, handed it to her sister like it was part of the plan. Logan stared across the room. He wasn't smiling now, more confused than anything. Do they even have emotions? Reese shrugged. They're too busy running simulations in their heads. But again, Tyrell didn't laugh. He watched the way Ava's jaw flexed when she chewed, the way Imani's shoulders had shifted back, not out of fear, but into posture. They weren't rattled. They were tracking. That night at Iron Temple, they didn't say a word to Hector, just walked in, wrapped their hands, and got straight to work. Ava drilled wrist locks with 10% more pressure than usual. Imani's ground game was tighter, cleaner. No wasted motion. They weren't mad. They were adjusting, because now it wasn't just about preparation, it was about permission. The boys had made contact, and next time there'd be a response. The city bus hissed to a stop at 5:12 p.m., brakes squealing against the cracked pavement in front of an old strip mall that looked like it hadn't seen a power wash in 20 years. Ava and Imani stepped off in sync, just like always. Backpacks slung tight, hoodies zipped, glasses tucked safely into hard cases. The sun was low, painting the sidewalk in bronze. School was over. Their real day was just beginning. They walked past a closed nail salon and a storefront church with blacked-out windows. Then came the place no one noticed. A faded door with a peeling decal that read Iron Temple Combat Gym, barely visible behind years of grime and rain. No welcome mat, no signage, just wait. Inside, the gym hit like a punch to the lungs. It smelled like sweat, old blood, and rubber mats that had seen too many rounds. The air was humid, heavy, and hot. Not in a broken AC way, in a this is where you break yourself kind of way. Overhead lights buzzed with that faint flicker of flickering fluorescence. The soundtrack was gloves hitting pads, heavy bags thudding, tape tearing, people grunting, breathing. And then there was Hector, big, mean, and shaped like a wrecking ball in sneakers. Hector had trained real fighters. Fighters with names on posters, fighters who bled for checks. He didn't yell unless you dropped your hands. He didn't praise unless you earned it. The first time the twins walked into his gym 2 years ago, he'd raised an eyebrow and said, "You here for cardio?" Ava had answered by double-legging a grown man in her first 5 minutes. They hadn't been questioned since. Tonight, Hector didn't greet them, just nodded, pointed to the cage. Rounds, clean, fast, you know the drill. Ava slipped her wraps on tight, fingers pulling white tape in slow, methodical loops. Imani tied her hair back again, tighter this time. Both girls stepped inside the cage barefoot, calm, silent. Then came the shift. In the cage, they were different. Not loud, not angry, but alive. Ava dropped into her stance like she'd grown there, knees soft, elbows tight, eyes scanning. Imani circled opposite, faster on her feet, hands twitching like she was born wired for combat. No banter, no countdown, just motion. Ava shot first. A feint, a jab, a low kick. Imani blocked, countered with a spinning elbow that grazed Ava's shoulder. No smiles, no showboating, just muscle memory flowing like water under pressure. The gym went quieter than usual. A few heads turned. The other fighters knew. When those two were sparring, it was clinic time. Hector watched from the edge of the mat, arms crossed, stopwatch dangling from his fingers. Ava caught Imani's arm, faked a takedown, slipped under, and executed a picture-perfect sweep. Imani landed soft, rolled to her feet, and came back with a kick to the ribs that made a sound like a snapped leather belt. No anger. No emotion. Just rhythm. They'd been quiet all week, holding it in. All the flicked notebooks, the knocked trays, the snide comments, it all came out here. In clean strikes, in perfect footwork, in the language they actually spoke. And Hector ever the soldier, finally muttered, "They're tightening up. Real clean, real sharp." He didn't know about the twins' week, about Logan, about Reese, about the soda, but he didn't need to. He could feel it in the way Ava was holding her stances a second longer than usual, in the way Amani's breathing was deeper, more controlled. They were building toward something, not rage, not revenge, something colder, smarter, resolution. The bell rang after 4 rounds. They didn't collapse, didn't even sit down, just bumped gloves and nodded. "Good work," Ava said. "Clean form," Amani replied. Hector grunted. "You two trying to kill each other or win a belt?" Ava looked up at him, sweat running down her temple, eyes like glass. "Neither," she said. "We're just making sure we're ready." Friday morning came wrapped in fake sunshine, warm light, empty air, and that end-of-week buzz where teachers gave up halfway through first period and students started acting like the world owed them a weekend. Announcements buzzed through the PA system like background noise. No one listened, except for the last line. "And don't forget, next Friday is our spring debate finals, featuring an exhibition round chosen by your very own student council, Logan Parker and Reese Carter versus Ava and Amani James. Should be a fun one." The classroom didn't explode. It cracked. Laughter sparked and spread, heads turned. Someone fake gasped. "Yo, what? Debate club going full WE now? Logan's gonna eat those girls alive. Team Algebra's gonna get deleted." The twins didn't react. Not even a blink. But Ava's pen paused for half a second before she kept writing. Imani turned the page in her binder. That was it. Silent movement. Zero response. Business as usual. But their pulse shifted. Just slightly. They hadn't signed up for that matchup. No warning, no vote. It wasn't on the board in the club room. It was a stunt, a popularity move. Student council had asked for entertainment, and someone thought putting the nerd twins against the school's golden boy and his hype man would be funny. And Logan? Oh, Logan was thrilled. In the locker room that afternoon, he slapped Reese on the back so hard the kid nearly choked on his water. "You hear this? We're gonna debate against the androids. We even prepping?" Reese grinned. "Nah," Logan said. "We're just gonna talk circles till they glitch out." They high-fived. "Gonna be legendary." Meanwhile, Tyrell sat on the bench across from them, tying his sneakers slower than usual, watching the floor like it held a better answer. He hadn't laughed when the announcement dropped. He hadn't smiled. He'd just looked at the twins across the hallway, the way they didn't flinch, didn't whisper, didn't even look at each other. Like they didn't need to, because they knew what this really was. It wasn't a debate, it was bait. That night, at home, Ava and Amani were quiet over dinner. Their mom worked late. Their dad, still deployed, had sent them both a text that read, "Be ready for anything. Most people show their true selves on a stage." They didn't reply, just screenshot it, saved it. Later, in their room, they sat side by side at their desks. Ava had her laptop open, a debate folder pulled up with arguments already outlined. Amani had headphones in, watching clips of Logan from last year's finals. He was arrogant, loud, overconfident. Funny, sure, but sloppy, no structure, no depth, just fast talk and charm. The judges had loved it. The crowd even more. But he'd never debated someone like them. He didn't know how to handle people who weren't performing, people who didn't care about applause, only precision. Saturday, they hit Iron Temple harder than usual. Hector didn't ask why, just nodded as they walked in with their gloves already on. "Cage or pads?" he asked. "Both," Ava said. "Back to back," Imani added. They sparred without music. No timer, just instinct, reaction, control. In the middle of one drill, Hector stepped in and called for a break. "What's this for?" he asked. "You got a fight coming?" The twins looked at each other. Ava said nothing. Imani wiped her brow and finally answered, "No, Coach, just a school project." The auditorium was full by second period. They had cleared out the folding chairs and set up a raised stage with podiums borrowed from the Model UN team. Half the school showed up under the excuse of extended lunch hour. Teachers stood along the walls pretending to supervise, but most were just curious. Phones were out before the first speaker touched the mic. At center stage, 2 podiums. Left side, Logan Parker and Reese Carter, dressed like they were auditioning for a college brochure. Logan wore his Letterman jacket even though it was 80 degrees inside. Reese had on a pair of sunglasses perched on his head for no reason other than show. Both of them leaned on their podiums like it was a locker room. Right side, Ava and Imani James. Black cardigans, pressed slacks, their hair neatly braided into matching low buns, not a speck of sweat, not a glance to the crowd, just standing there still as stone, eyes forward. The topic was supposed to be, is competitive sports more valuable than academic achievement in high school? Didn't matter. Logan didn't show up to debate. He showed up to humiliate. From the second he grabbed the mic, he went off script. "First off," he started, grinning like he already had the trophy. "Shout out to my opponents, the only people I know who can solve a math problem in Latin." Laughter. Loud. Easy. Reese added, "We're pretty sure they communicate through spreadsheet." More laughter. Phones up. A few kids fake coughed into their sleeves to hide their chuckles. Ava didn't move. Imani didn't blink. Then Logan took it further. "I mean, come on," he said, walking away from the podium now, mic in hand. "Is it even fair to debate someone who is probably solving the national debt in utero?" He walked across the stage. The moderator made a half step forward, then froze. Logan stopped in front of Imani. "Too close. You okay up here?" he asked, tilting his head like he was checking for a pulse. "You seem a little tense." Ava shifted her weight, subtle, but anyone watching closely would have noticed. Then came the shove. It was small. Just a jab of his hand against Imani's binder knocked it right out of her hands. Pages scattered on the stage like leaves in wind. The crowd exploded with noise, some gasps, some laughter, some frozen in silence. Logan smirked, looked out at the crowd, and started to turn away. He didn't get far. Ava moved like glass breaking. One step, one twist. Her hand caught his wrist mid-turn and spun him hard, clean, into an arm lock, fluid and fast. His whole body whipped around, crashing sideways into the podium. The mic let out a violent screech as it hit the floor. Before anyone could even react, Reese lunged toward Ava from behind. Instinct, panic, rage, it didn't matter. Imani was already moving. She turned into the tackle, used his momentum against him, and flipped him clean off his feet in a judo-style hip toss that landed him flat on his back. Loud, final, and just like that, it was quiet. You could hear the fluorescent lights buzz. Ava let go of Logan and stepped back. Imani smoothed her sleeve. The whole fight, if you could call it that, lasted maybe 6 seconds. 6 seconds, 2 bodies down, no breathing hard, no yelling, just precision. From the bleachers, Tyrell stood up slowly. His mouth open, but no words came out. Around him, kids lowered their phones like they forgot what a camera was. And in the back of the room, Principal Howard said softly, "What the hell just happened?" The moderator didn't say a word. No one did, except Ava. She bent down, picked up Imani's binder, brushed it off, and handed it back to her twin without breaking eye contact. Then, as casually as if nothing happened, she turned to the stunned crowd and said, "Shall we continue?" By the time the final bell rang, the clip had already hit 3 group chats, 2 burner TikTok accounts, and a student-run Instagram page called Westfield Exposed. The title? Nerd Twins Drop Logan in 6 Seconds Cage Match Debate. The views hit 4K by 3:15, 10,000 by dinner time. By nightfall, someone had edited it with WWE sound effects. Another version slowed down Ava's lockup frame by frame like it was a forensic breakdown. At school, the energy was different. Still loud, still chaotic, but filtered. People watched Ava and Imani differently now. They weren't just the math girls anymore. They weren't quiet curiosities in cardigans. They were something else. No one knew what to call it. Not yet. In the main office, Principal Howard sat in front of a laptop, scrubbing through the footage in slow motion. The room was silent except for the occasional squeak of his chair and the low, static-laced audio from the video. He played it again. Logan's shove, Ava's turn, lock, spin, impact. Then, Reese lunging, Imani intercepting. Lift, drop, stillness. He leaned back in his chair and rubbed his temples. "This isn't a fight," he said finally. "This is choreography." Beside him, Ms. Fields, head of the debate team, whispered, "It's control, tactical." Another pause. "It's self-defense, clean. No blood, no screaming, no rage, just execution." By the next morning, the twins were trending, not just online, in whispers, glances, the way people shifted in hallways as they passed. A freshman literally dropped her books when Ava brushed past her near the lockers. "Sorry," she squeaked, eyes wide. A junior in AP Chem leaned over and said, "Yo, you see how she didn't even break a sweat?" They weren't getting bullied anymore. They weren't even getting spoken to. They were getting studied. In third period, Logan showed up with a soft brace on his wrist and sunglasses he didn't need. He sat in the back and didn't say a single word the whole class. Reese wasn't even at school. Rumor was his parents pulled him out for mental health reasons. Tyrell, though? He walked up to Ava and Imani before homeroom, stopped dead in front of them, hands in his pockets. A pause. Then he said, not loud, not soft, "That was the cleanest thing I've ever seen in my life." Imani nodded once. "Thanks." Ava just blinked. "We didn't want to." He made it physical. Tyrell nodded back. Respect. And that was it. Not a peace treaty, not friendship, just recognition. Meanwhile, the admin staff scrambled. They reviewed the school handbook, checked security footage, held 3 meetings in 2 days. But it always came back to the same conclusion. No violation, no escalation. Perfect form. Howard finally said it out loud in a faculty meeting. "We didn't witness a fight, we witnessed a warning. No suspension, no write-ups, just silence, and one quiet administrative note added to both their files. Students demonstrated coordinated physical response to provocation, precision level, advanced." That Friday, as Ava and Imani walked down the main hallway toward the cafeteria, the chatter dimmed like someone turned the volume down. They weren't glaring. They weren't flexing. They were just there. 2 girls with matching backpacks, neat braids, and quiet focus. But this time, nobody was looking at the glasses. Nobody was looking at the cardigans. They were looking at what was underneath. Monday morning came soft. No bells, no drama, no tension in the air, just regular hallway noise, filtered through something new. Memory. The buzz hadn't gone away, not entirely. It just settled deeper, quieter. Students still watched the video, still whispered in corners, still turned when they passed. But now, the stares came with space. Not fear, not awe, respect. The kind that made people move out of the way before they even realized they were doing it. Ava and Imani walked the halls like they always did. Not fast, not slow. Just steady. Their cardigans were the same. Their braids were the same. Their folders still perfectly organized by subject and time slot. The difference wasn't them. It was the way the building held them now. At the cafeteria doors, Ava held it open for a freshman with a heavy backpack. No words, just a glance. The kid looked like she'd seen a celebrity and nodded so fast her glasses slipped down her nose. "Thank you," she whispered. Imani grabbed a tray. Balanced the sections the way she always did. Sandwich, fruit, water. Ava followed, same seat, same corner table. But now no one sat within 2 feet of them, not because they were scary, because they were solid. They had nothing to prove anymore, and everyone knew it. Logan didn't come to school that day. Reese transferred the following week. Tyrell switched debate teams, quietly. No announcement. Just showed up at the next meeting, grabbed a chair near Ava and Imani, and asked if he could run time for them at the next tournament. They looked at him once, then nodded. No drama, just inclusion. Earned. Teachers started quoting the twins during class. Ava made an interesting point last week about economic systems. Let's revisit that. Imani raised this in debate. What do you all think? They weren't the weird smart girls anymore. They were references. Markers of precision, of control, of unmistakable presence. Later that month, someone in the art club painted a mural in the back stairwell. It wasn't flashy. No faces. Just 2 silhouettes in motion, one mid-throw, one mid-stance, outlined in gray on black. Underneath, in clean white font, "Silence is not weakness." No one signed it. Everyone knew who it was for. And the girls? They didn't start speaking more, didn't dress different, didn't post about it. They just kept doing their work. Training at Iron Temple, showing up early, leaving late, winning debate rounds with surgical logic and 0 wasted words. They never raised their voices. They never told their story. But Westfield High never forgot it. Because when the moment came, and the whole school watched, Ava and Imani James didn't just speak up. They showed up, and sometimes that's louder than anything.